When the name Wild Bill is mentioned, fans of the hit show Deadliest Catch immediately think of the loud, fearless, and tough crab boat captain who seemed almost larger than life. But while many admired him, there were always voices in the background warning about his temper, his rough style, and the dangers of the path he was walking. These warnings were not just about the dangers of crab fishing itself, which is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, but also about the toll that years of stress, injuries, and harsh leadership could take on a man. Wild Bill Wichrowski built his reputation on being unbreakable, the kind of person who never backed down, even when the sea threw its worst at him. For many years, he stood as a symbol of survival and toughness. Yet, behind the fame and bravado, there was a growing storm that people close to him could see. The story of Wild Bill is not only about crab fishing and TV fame, but also about the consequences of ignoring repeated warnings, whether they come from doctors, crew members, or even from life itself. His rise, struggles, and battles off the deck show a complex man whose legacy is both admired and questioned. Long before he became a TV personality, Bill Wichrowski lived a life that prepared him for toughness. Born in 1957, he grew up in Pennsylvania, far from the sea, but soon found his calling in adventure and discipline. He joined the U.S. Navy, where he spent several years learning discipline, leadership, and survival under pressure. The Navy shaped him into someone who didn't shy away from hard work or tough decisions. When his service ended, instead of choosing an easy life, Bill looked toward the sea. The fishing industry in Alaska, especially crab fishing in the Bering Sea, was known for breaking men physically and mentally. Many people warned him of the risks, from deadly storms to long months away from family, but Bill wanted the challenge. His background in the Navy gave him the confidence to face the unpredictable world of commercial fishing. Unlike others who might have been scared off, Bill thrived under pressure. But what looked like determination from the outside was also the start of a lifestyle that would push his body and mind to their limits. The traits that made him strong would also make him vulnerable, and the warnings he ignored early on were only the beginning of a pattern that followed him throughout his career. Bill's fishing career began in the late 1970s, a time when Alaskan crab fishing was booming. The job was grueling: long hours and freezing temperatures, massive waves crashing against the deck, and the constant risk of injury or even death. Many men who tried the job quit after only one season, but Bill stuck it out. His persistence earned him respect among fellow fishermen, and he quickly rose through the ranks. He became known for being tough but reliable, the kind of person who would get the job done no matter how bad conditions were. Still, people close to him noticed that Bill sometimes pushed himself and his crew harder than necessary. Friends warned him that he was burning himself out, but Bill ignored them, driven by the pride of proving he could handle anything. This was a dangerous mindset in a job that already demanded everything from the body and soul. Over the years, Bill worked on different boats, gathering experience and becoming a seasoned fisherman. His reputation for strength and determination grew, but so did the number of people who felt he was pushing the limits too far. In an industry where mistakes could mean death, ignoring such warnings could have serious consequences. But Bill was never one to back down. His stubbornness was both his gift and his curse. When Deadliest Catch first aired in 2005, it gave the world a look into the brutal and dangerous world of crab fishing. Bill Wichrowski officially joined the show in its later seasons, bringing his unique personality and leadership style to television screens. Fans were immediately drawn to him because he seemed fearless, tough, and unshakable. His boat, the Summer Bay, became one of the show's highlights, and Wild Bill became a fan favorite. But with fame came even more scrutiny. Viewers saw not only his strengths but also his flaws. His temper, his harsh words toward crew members, and his willingness to push everyone to their limits created drama that made great television but also raised eyebrows. Some fans loved his tough love approach, while others thought he was too extreme. Crew members themselves sometimes complained that his leadership style was too aggressive, and a few even walked away because they couldn't handle it. The show made him famous, but it also exposed the side of him that people had been warning about for years. His reputation as a hard but controversial leader was now out in the open, and the world was paying attention. Wild Bill's leadership style was often described as old school. He believed in discipline, toughness, and getting the job done no matter what. To him, there was no room for weakness, especially on the dangerous waters of the Bering Sea. Some respected this about him because crab fishing is truly life or death, but others saw his methods as outdated and even damaging. His crew often felt intense pressure, and there were times when disagreements exploded into full arguments on deck. Fans watching from home could see both sides. A captain who cared about survival but sometimes seemed to push too far. Critics warned that his aggressive approach could drive people away and even create unsafe situations if morale dropped too low. Bill often brushed off the criticism, saying that not everyone was cut out for crab fishing and that only the strongest survived. This attitude made him a polarizing figure. Supporters admired his strength, while detractors accused him of crossing the line into harshness. Either way, Wild Bill never changed his style, believing he was doing what was necessary. but ignoring the warnings about his leadership would eventually take its toll, both on his relationships and on his own health. What fans often didn't see on TV were the struggles Bill faced off the boat. Years of fishing and physical labor left him with serious injuries, including hip problems and chronic back pain. Doctors warned him that continuing at the same pace could cause lasting damage, but Bill pushed through the pain to keep fishing and filming. His stubbornness came back to haunt him when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. This was a turning point in his life, as he had to face the reality that he wasn't indestructible. Even then, Bill tried to use his experience to raise awareness, encouraging other men to get checked and take their health seriously. But the truth was that ignoring earlier health warnings had made his struggles much worse. For someone who had built his identity on being tough, admitting weakness was difficult. Fans admired his openness about cancer, but those close to him knew it came after years of avoiding advice. Bill's health struggles showed the real cost of ignoring warnings, whether they came from doctors or from the pain signals his own body was giving him. It was a powerful reminder that even the toughest men have limits. Throughout his career, there were always people trying to warn Bill. Fellow captains like Sig Hansen sometimes questioned his methods. Crew members voiced their frustrations about being pushed too hard. Fans on social media debated whether his tough style was leadership or cruelty. And doctors gave him advice about slowing down and caring for his health. In almost every case, Bill pushed forward anyway, convinced that he knew best. This attitude is part of what made him a legend, but it was also what brought him so much struggle. The title They Warned Us About Wild Bill reflects the fact that for years, people around him tried to show that his style and lifestyle were not sustainable. Yet because he was so determined to maintain his image and his career, those warnings often went unheard. His story is both inspiring and cautionary. On one hand, he achieved success that few could ever dream of, becoming a household name and surviving one of the hardest jobs in the world. On the other, he paid a heavy price for ignoring the very warnings that might have saved him from pain. It shows how sometimes strength and stubbornness can be two sides of the same coin. Today, Wild Bill stands as one of the most memorable captains in Deadliest Catch history. His name carries weight, not only because of his success but also because of the controversies and struggles that followed him. Fans continue to debate whether he was too harsh or simply doing what the job required. What cannot be denied is that his story holds lessons about leadership, health, and listening to the people around us. The warnings people gave about Wild Bill were not just about his temper or his methods, but about the dangers of living life without balance. His career proves that toughness can take you far, but even the strongest people must sometimes pause, listen, and adapt. For those who admired him, his journey is inspiring. For those who criticized him, it's a cautionary tale. Either way, Wild Bill Wichrowski remains unforgettable. His legacy is a reminder that ignoring warnings might build a legend, but it can also come with costs that last a lifetime. The sea may have tested him, but life itself tested him even harder. And whether you see him as a hero or a warning, Wild Bill will always be a figure we can't ignore. When people hear the name Wild Bill, fans of Deadliest Catch immediately think of the tough, loud, and fearless captain who seemed almost larger than life. But behind his strong image were always voices warning that his rough leadership style, stubborn personality, and constant push against limits would come with a price. Wild Bill Wichrowski made a career out of being the kind of man who didn't back down, whether from the Bering Sea or from people who questioned him. That's why many admired him. But his story also shows what happens when warnings are ignored for too long. The rise and struggles of Wild Bill prove that toughness alone is never enough, and that even the strongest men face consequences when they push past every red flag. Born in 1957 in Pennsylvania, Bill Wichrowski didn't grow up by the ocean, but his adventurous spirit led him to the Navy, where he learned discipline and survival under pressure. After his service, he entered the world of Alaskan crab fishing in the late 1970s, a brutal industry known as one of the deadliest jobs in the world. Many warned him about the dangers, storms, injuries, and months away from home. But Bill wasn't one to back away. His Navy background gave him confidence, and his determination made him stand out. While many men quit after just one season, Bill thrived. He worked his way up, earning respect for being reliable under pressure. Yet even then, people noticed how far he pushed himself and others. The same stubbornness that made him successful also became a warning sign that his career would not be without heavy costs. Bill officially joined Deadliest Catch later in the show's run, and his personality quickly made him stand out. As captain of the Summer Bay, he became both a fan favorite and a controversial figure. His leadership style was old-school strict discipline, tough words, and no patience for weakness. Some fans admired this, believing only the strongest could survive on the Bering Sea. Others thought he crossed the line, being too harsh with crew members. Viewers saw crew arguments and explosive moments, which made for great television but also showed how intense his methods were. Fellow captains sometimes questioned his approach, and even his own men walked away from his boat at times. The fame made him a star, but it also exposed to millions the very warnings about his style that many had already seen behind the scenes. What the cameras didn't always capture was the toll this lifestyle took on Bill himself. Years of hard labor left him with hip and back problems, and doctors warned him to slow down. He didn't. Instead, he pushed through the pain, determined to keep fishing and filming. Then came his prostate cancer diagnosis, which forced him to face what he had long avoided, that even Wild Bill had limits. To his credit, he used the experience to raise awareness, encouraging other men to get checked. Fans admired him for sharing such a personal battle. But the truth is, the illness was also a consequence of ignoring earlier warnings about his health. His story showed that even the toughest captains cannot outwork time forever. His stubbornness had always defined him, but now it was costing him in ways toughness couldn't fix. Throughout his career, warnings followed Bill like shadows. Crew members said his demands were too much, fellow captains worried his style would burn people out, and doctors urged him to take care of himself. Even fans debated online whether he was a great leader or simply too harsh. In nearly every case, Bill brushed it off. He believed that crab fishing wasn't a job for the weak, and in his mind, pushing limits was the only way to survive. In some ways, he was right. Without that toughness, he wouldn't have lasted decades in such a brutal industry. But the other side is also true. The same attitude that made him legendary was what put his health, his relationships, and his peace of mind at risk. The story of Wild Bill is inspiring, but it's also a cautionary tale of what happens when a person ignores every warning sign. Wild Bill Wichrowski is remembered as one of the most unforgettable captains in Deadliest Catch history. To some, he's a hero who showed unbelievable strength in the face of danger. To others, he's an example of the costs of stubbornness and harsh leadership. His story proves that toughness can take you far, but even the strongest people need to listen when life gives them warnings. The legacy of Wild Bill is a mix of inspiration and caution. Fans will never forget his determination, his fiery temper, or his battles at sea. But just as important are the lessons his career leaves behind, that ignoring health, relationships, and balance eventually catches up with everyone. Wild Bill showed us how far grit can carry a person, but he also reminded us what happens when the warnings are ignored. When the name Wild Bill is mentioned, fans of the hit show Deadliest Catch immediately think of the loud, fearless, and tough crab boat captain who seemed almost larger than life. But while many admired him, there were always voices in the background warning about his temper, his rough style, and the dangers of the path he was walking. These warnings were not just about the dangers of crab fishing itself, which is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, but also about the toll that years of stress, injuries, and harsh leadership could take on a man. Wild Bill Wichrowski built his reputation on being unbreakable, the kind of person who never backed down, even when the sea threw its worst at him. For many years, he stood as a symbol of survival and toughness. Yet, behind the fame and bravado, there was a growing storm that people close to him could see. The story of Wild Bill is not only about crab fishing and TV fame, but also about the consequences of ignoring repeated warnings, whether they come from doctors, crew members, or even from life itself. His rise, struggles, and battles off the deck show a complex man whose legacy is both admired and questioned. Long before he became a TV personality, Bill Wichrowski lived a life that prepared him for toughness. Born in 1957, he grew up in Pennsylvania, far from the sea, but soon found his calling in adventure and discipline. He joined the U.S. Navy, where he spent several years learning discipline, leadership, and survival under pressure. The Navy shaped him into someone who didn't shy away from hard work or tough decisions. When his service ended, instead of choosing an easy life, Bill looked toward the sea. The fishing industry in Alaska, especially crab fishing in the Bering Sea, was known for breaking men physically and mentally. Many people warned him of the risks, from deadly storms to long months away from family, but Bill wanted the challenge. His background in the Navy gave him the confidence to face the unpredictable world of commercial fishing. Unlike others who might have been scared off, Bill thrived under pressure. But what looked like determination from the outside was also the start of a lifestyle that would push his body and mind to their limits.